Have you ever noticed how some people seem to age gracefully, maintaining their energy and mobility well into their 70s, 80s and beyond, while others struggle with joint pain, fatigue and a general feeling of slowing down? The difference often comes down to what's on your plate. I'm talking about the foods you eat every single day that could be either supporting your health or quietly working against you. Hello there and welcome to today's video. I'm so glad you've joined me as we talk about something that affects every one of us as we age, our relationship with food and how it impacts our health. When we cross that wonderful threshold of 70 years, our bodies have different nutritional needs than they did even a decade earlier. What worked for us at 60 might not serve us as well at 70 and beyond. Today, I want to share with you the 5 processed foods that could be silently undermining your health and vitality after 70. These aren't obvious junk foods. Some of them might even surprise you. But more importantly, I'll also tell you about 3 powerful foods that could transform how you feel, giving your joints the support they need and restoring that natural energy you remember having. Let's talk about the first food that many of us don't think twice about consuming, but that could be causing real problems for your body after 70. Processed baked goods with artificial preservatives. I'm talking about those store-bought muffins, donuts, cookies, and even some types of bread that can stay fresh on your counter for days or even weeks. You know, I have a friend named Margaret who just turned 78 last month. For years, she started every morning with a cup of coffee and a store-bought muffin or pastry. She loved the convenience and the sweet start to her day. But Margaret began noticing her joints were getting stiffer, especially in her hands and knees. Simple tasks like buttoning her cardigan or climbing the 3 steps to her front porch became painful challenges. When Margaret mentioned this to her doctor, they looked at her inflammation markers, which were surprisingly high. Her doctor suggested eliminating processed baked goods for just 2 weeks to see if it made any difference. Margaret was skeptical. How could her morning muffin be causing her joint pain? But she agreed to try. What makes these processed baked goods so problematic after 70? It's a perfect storm of ingredients that our aging bodies become increasingly sensitive to. First, there's the refined white flour that converts to sugar almost instantly in your bloodstream. Then there's the actual sugar content, often hiding under dozens of different names on ingredient labels. But the real troublemakers are the preservatives, artificial flavors, and trans fats. As we age, our bodies become less efficient at processing and eliminating these artificial compounds. Our liver and kidneys, which worked tirelessly in our younger years to filter out toxins, simply can't keep up the same pace. These preservatives, things like potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate and BHA, create oxidative stress in the body, which is a primary driver of inflammation. And inflammation isn't just about joint pain. It's the common denominator in almost every age-related condition we want to avoid. It affects your energy levels, because your body is constantly fighting an internal battle. It impacts your cognitive function, that mental clarity we all want to maintain. And yes, it significantly worsens joint pain and mobility. Now back to Margaret. After just 10 days without her processed morning treats, she called me almost in tears. "I can button my own blouse again," she told me. "And yesterday I walked up those porch steps without holding the railing for the first time in months." The change wasn't just in how she felt physically. Margaret noticed she had more consistent energy throughout the day. She wasn't experiencing that mid-morning crash that used to send her looking for another sweet snack to keep going. So what's the alternative? I'm certainly not suggesting you give up your morning rituals or the simple pleasures of a sweet treat. Instead, consider baking your own simple goods using whole food ingredients. A basic banana bread made with almond flour, sweetened with just a touch of honey, and some walnuts for healthy fats, can be prepared on Sunday and enjoyed throughout the week. Or try my favorite breakfast, plain Greek yogurt with a sprinkle of cinnamon, a handful of fresh berries, and a small drizzle of pure maple syrup. The protein keeps you satisfied, The berries provide natural sweetness along with antioxidants, and the cinnamon helps regulate blood sugar. It's a combination that supports your joints rather than inflaming them. If baking isn't your thing, look for bakeries that make fresh goods daily without preservatives. Yes, these treats won't last as long on your counter, but that's actually a good sign. It means they don't contain the artificial preservatives your body struggles to process. When shopping, adopt the ingredient label rule. If you can't pronounce it or wouldn't have it in your own kitchen, think twice before eating it. For Margaret, this single change was transformative. Within a month, her doctor retested her inflammation markers, and they had dropped significantly. She still enjoys sweets. In fact, she's become quite the home baker, making small batches of oatmeal raisin cookies that she actually shares with her doctor at appointments. As we move through our 70s and beyond, we need to recognize that our bodies have different needs and responses than they did even a decade earlier. What we could tolerate at 60 might create real problems at 75. But here's the wonderful truth. Making even one change, like eliminating processed baked goods, can create a ripple effect of positive changes in how you feel every day. Now let's talk about the second processed food that deserves a second look, especially as it appears in many healthy diets recommended for seniors. The second processed food that might be sabotaging your health is something many of us have been led to believe is actually good for us: processed vegetable oils. I'm talking specifically about soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, and those vegetable oil blends that fill the grocery store shelves. These oils have become so ubiquitous in our food supply that they're practically invisible. They're in salad dressings, mayonnaise, virtually every packaged snack, and they're what most restaurants use for cooking. Let me tell you about Robert, who's 82 and has been my neighbor for nearly a decade. Robert prided himself on his heart-healthy diet. He dutifully followed his doctor's advice from the 1990s to avoid butter and animal fats and instead use vegetable oils. He used margarine instead of butter, cooked exclusively with canola oil, and chose salad dressings proudly labeled "made with heart-healthy oils." Despite his careful attention to his diet, Robert struggled with persistent pain in his shoulders and hands. His afternoon energy levels were so low that he'd given up his beloved gardening, and he often mentioned feeling foggy mentally, especially after meals. When his granddaughter, a nutritionist, came to visit, she noticed something interesting. Robert's kitchen was filled with products containing processed oils. What makes these oils so problematic, especially after 70? It comes down to their chemical structure and how they're processed. Unlike traditional fats humans have consumed for thousands of years, most vegetable oils undergo extensive industrial processing. They're extracted with chemical solvents, bleached, deodorized, and heated to extremely high temperatures. This processing creates something our bodies, particularly aging bodies, simply weren't designed to handle. These oils are extraordinarily high in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, omega-6s aren't inherently bad. We need some in our diet. The problem is balance. The ideal ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids in our diet should be roughly 4.1. The typical American diet, heavy and processed vegetable oils, often has a ratio closer to 21 or even higher. This imbalance creates a perfect environment for chronic inflammation. For someone in their 70s or 80s, this inflammation can manifest directly in your joints. Those aches and pains that you might attribute to just getting older could actually be your body's response to this inflammatory burden. But it doesn't stop there. This inflammation affects your energy production at the cellular level, which is why you might feel that afternoon slump or general fatigue. Even more concerning is the effect on brain health. Your brain is approximately 60% fat, and the type of fats you consume directly impacts brain function. Those moments of forgetfulness or mental fog might be connected to the types of fats in your diet. Robert was skeptical when his granddaughter suggested removing processed oils from his diet. "At my age, is it really going to make a difference?" he asked. but he agreed to try it for 3 weeks. He switched to cooking with olive oil and a little grass-fed butter, started making his own simple salad dressing with olive oil and lemon juice, and began carefully reading labels to avoid packaged foods containing vegetable oils. The changes weren't immediate, but by the end of week 2, Robert noticed something remarkable. He wasn't reaching for ibuprofen every afternoon for his shoulder pain. By week 3, he had enough energy to spend 30 minutes tending to his tomato plants, something he hadn't done in months. And perhaps most surprisingly, he reported feeling mentally sharper, especially after meals. So what are the alternatives? Fortunately, they're delicious. Extra virgin olive oil becomes your kitchen's new best friend. It's perfect for low to medium heat cooking and all your salad needs. For higher heat cooking, avocado oil is outstanding. And yes, it's time to welcome back moderate amounts of traditional fats like butter, preferably grass-fed, and even coconut oil, which contains medium-chain triglycerides that can be beneficial for brain health. When it comes to prepared foods, this is where label reading becomes crucial. Look for products made with the oils I just mentioned rather than soybean, canola, or corn oil. Yes, they might cost a bit more and have a shorter shelf life, but that's actually a good sign. It means they don't contain industrial preservatives. For Robert, this single change cascaded into other healthy choices. With his increased energy, he became more active. With less pain, he slept better. With better sleep came improved mood. 6 months later, when he saw his doctor for a checkup, even his blood work showed improvements in his inflammation markers. The most beautiful part of Robert's story is what he told me last week when I saw him kneeling in his garden, something I hadn't seen him do in years. I wasted so much time thinking my aches and low energy were just inevitable parts of aging, he said. I never imagined that changing the type of oil in my kitchen could give me back so much of my life. Now, let's move on to the third processed food that might be affecting your health more than you realize, one that many people consume multiple times every day without a second thought. The third processed food that deserves careful consideration is something many of us consume without even thinking about it: artificially sweetened products. I'm talking about those diet sodas, sugar-free flavored waters, and light yogurts that promise all the sweetness with none of the calories. For many of us who grew up watching our waistlines, these products seemed like the perfect solution, the sweet taste we crave without the guilt. I remember meeting Elaine at a community center where I was giving a talk about nutrition for seniors. At 75, Elaine was concerned about her weight and had been a devoted diet soda drinker for over 30 years. I have at least 3 cans a day, she told me. It helps me avoid regular soda and keeps my sweet tooth satisfied. But Elaine was also dealing with persistent digestive issues, bloating, unpredictable bowel habits, and uncomfortable gas. She'd also noticed increasing issues with her balance and occasionally felt a slight tremor in her hands. What makes artificial sweeteners so problematic as we age? The science has evolved significantly since these products first hit the market. We now understand that these chemical sweeteners, things like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin, can disrupt the delicate balance of bacteria in our gut microbiome. This disruption is particularly significant after 70, when our digestive systems are already more sensitive and our microbiome diversity naturally decreases. A healthy gut microbiome isn't just about digestion, it's central to our immune function, inflammation regulation, and even brain health. In fact, scientists now refer to the gut-brain connection as a crucial pathway for overall wellness, especially as we age. Those artificial sweeteners that seem to pass through our bodies without impact are actually interacting with our gut bacteria in ways that can trigger inflammation and metabolic changes. Even more concerning is what happens in our brains when we consume artificial sweeteners. Our taste buds detect sweetness and signal our brain to prepare for incoming calories and glucose. When those calories never arrive, It creates a confusing mismatch in our metabolic system. Over time, this can actually lead to increased cravings, potential insulin resistance issues, and even cognitive effects that might manifest as brain fog or memory concerns. For someone in their 70s or 80s, these effects can be more pronounced simply because our body's compensatory mechanisms aren't as robust as they once were. What our system could easily handle at 40 or 50 might create genuine disruption at 75 or 80. When I explained this to Elaine, she was understandably concerned, but also skeptical. After all these years, could my diet sodas really be causing problems? She agreed to a 3-week experiment, replacing her diet sodas with alternatives we discussed. This wasn't easy for someone with a decades-long habit, but Elaine was determined. The first week was challenging. She experienced headaches as her body adjusted to life without artificial sweeteners. But by day 10, something remarkable happened. "My stomach feels calm for the first time in years," she told me during our follow-up. By the end of 3 weeks, she noticed her digestive issues had improved dramatically. More surprisingly, the slight tremor in her hands had decreased, and she felt more confident with her balance when walking. So what are the alternatives if you've been relying on artificially sweetened products? The transition doesn't have to be painful. Start by experimenting with naturally flavored waters. Adding slices of cucumber, berries, or citrus to sparkling or still water creates refreshing options without the chemicals. Herbal teas, served hot or iced, offer tremendous flavor variety without sweeteners. If you do want something sweet occasionally, consider small amounts of naturally sweet foods, a piece of fruit, a small drizzle of honey in tea, or a modest serving of good quality dark chocolate. The key is retraining your palate to appreciate more subtle sweetness rather than the intense artificial sweetness we've become accustomed to. For Elaine, the journey away from artificial sweeteners opened up new pleasures. She discovered she loves sparkling water with a splash of tart cherry juice, not only delicious, but also supportive of joint health. She began brewing hibiscus tea and chilling it for a refreshing drink that supports healthy blood pressure. 6 months later, Elaine told me she couldn't imagine going back to her diet soda habit. "My digestion is better, I'm sleeping more soundly, and I don't have that jittery feeling I used to get in the afternoons." What I find most inspiring about Elaine's story is how one change, eliminating artificial sweeteners, created a cascade of positive effects that improved her quality of life in ways she hadn't anticipated. This is often how wellness works, especially as we age. Small, consistent changes can yield remarkable results. Now, let's move on to the fourth processed food that might be affecting your vitality and joint health, one that appears in countless convenience products marketed directly to seniors. The fourth processed food that deserves your attention is something many of us turn to for convenience and comfort: processed instant soups, boxed rice mixes, and packaged flavor enhancers. These products line our pantry shelves promising quick meals and familiar flavors, but they harbor ingredients that can be particularly troublesome after age 70. I met Harold during a senior wellness program at our local community center. At 83, Harold lived alone and prided himself on his independence. "I don't need anyone cooking for me," he'd say with a smile. His pantry was stocked with instant soup cups, packaged rice and pasta sides, and those little flavor packets he'd sprinkle on everything from vegetables to eggs for extra taste. He came to our program because of persistent swelling in his ankles and hands that made it difficult for him to enjoy his daily walks and his hobby of wood carving. Harold was surprised when I suggested his convenient meal solutions might be contributing to his problems. "But these are just simple foods," he said. "Some of them even say heart-healthy or low-fat on the package." What makes these convenient processed foods so problematic, especially after 70? The answer lies primarily in their sodium content and artificial flavor enhancers. A single serving of instant soup can contain anywhere from 700 to 900 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly half the daily recommended amount for someone over 70. Those innocent-looking flavor packets and rice mixes are similar sodium bombs. For older adults, excessive sodium doesn't just affect blood pressure, though that's certainly a concern. It can significantly impact fluid balance in your body, contributing to that uncomfortable swelling in hands, ankles, and feet that so many seniors experience. This swelling puts additional pressure on already sensitive joints, exacerbating pain and limiting mobility. Beyond sodium, many of these products contain monosodium glutamate, MSG, and other flavor enhancers that can trigger inflammation in sensitive individuals. As we age, our bodies often become more reactive to these compounds. What didn't bother us in our younger years can become problematic after 70. Additionally, these products typically lack the real nutrition your body needs to maintain energy and support joint health. They provide calories, certainly, but few of the vitamins, minerals, and natural compounds that fight inflammation and support tissue repair. Harold was hesitant to give up his convenient meals. After all, cooking for one person can seem like a lot of effort. But he agreed to try some alternatives for 2 weeks. We worked together to develop simple cooking strategies that wouldn't leave him feeling overwhelmed or spending hours in the kitchen. The first change was replacing store-bought broths and soups with homemade versions that could be frozen in single portions. We spent one Sunday afternoon making a big pot of chicken and vegetable soup with minimal sodium but plenty of garlic, herbs, and spices for flavor. Harold was surprised at how flavorful it was without all the salt. "I can actually taste the vegetables," he remarked. For his rice and pasta sides, we created simple herb blends using dried herbs, lemon zest, and a small amount of high-quality sea salt. These homemade mixes contained a fraction of the sodium of the packaged versions, but delivered more authentic flavor. Perhaps the most valuable lesson for Harold was learning how to batch cook and freeze individual portions. "I always thought freezing food was somehow cheating," he told me. "But having those homemade soups and meals ready to heat up has been a game-changer." The results weren't immediate, but about 10 days into his new approach, Harold noticed the swelling in his ankles had decreased noticeably. By the end of the month, he reported being able to close his hands completely around his carving tools again, something that had become difficult due to the swelling in his fingers. If you've been relying on these convenient but processed foods, consider these practical alternatives. First, dedicate one afternoon a month to making and freezing homemade soups in single-serving containers. A basic vegetable soup can be endlessly customized with whatever you have on hand, and it will deliver actual nutrition rather than just sodium and artificial flavors. Second, create your own flavor enhancers using herbs and spices. A simple mixture of dried garlic, onion, herbs, lemon zest, and a modest amount of salt can transform plain rice or vegetables. These mixtures can be prepared in advance and stored in small jars for convenience. Third, consider investing in a small, slow cooker. Harold found that being able to put ingredients in the pot in the morning and have a flavorful, low-sodium meal ready by dinner was the convenience he needed without the processed ingredients. For Harold, these changes led to more than just reduced swelling. With better nutrition came improved energy levels, which meant he could be more active, which further supported his joint health. 6 months after making these changes, Harold proudly showed me a new wood carving he had completed, his first major project in over a year. Now, let's move to our 5th and final processed food to reconsider, along with the 3 powerful foods that can transform your joint health and energy levels after 70. The 5th processed food that deserves a second look might be sitting on your breakfast table right now: processed breakfast cereals and packaged granolas. These morning staples are often marketed as healthy starts to your day, with boxes proclaiming heart-healthy, high-fiber, or whole grain. Yet many contain hidden sugars, refined grains, and additives that can be particularly troublesome for adults over 70. I remember meeting Martha at a wellness workshop last year. At 76, Martha was dealing with persistent morning stiffness in her joints that would take hours to subside. By lunchtime, I finally feel like I can move normally, she told me, but then I have to start all over again the next morning. Martha's breakfast for the past decade had been a bowl of what she believed was healthy granola with low-fat milk, followed by a glass of orange juice. What makes these cereals and granolas so problematic for our bodies after 70? Despite their healthy image, many contain surprising amounts of added sugars, often 10–15 grams per serving. And let's be honest, who actually measures out the exact serving size listed on the box? Most of us pour what looks right, often consuming twice the listed serving. These hidden sugars trigger inflammation pathways that can directly impact your joints. The morning stiffness that you might attribute to aging could actually be your body's inflammatory response to the previous day's diet choices. The refined grains in most cereals, even those labeled whole grain, can cause rapid spikes in blood sugar that leave you feeling energetic initially but lead to an energy crash mid-morning. For Martha, the combination of the sugary cereal and juice was creating a significant glucose spike each morning, followed by an inflammatory response that manifested in her joints. When I explained this connection, she was skeptical, but willing to experiment with alternatives. We replaced her processed breakfast with a simple protein-rich alternative: 2 soft-boiled eggs with a slice of avocado toast on genuine sourdough bread, which has a lower glycemic impact than regular bread. Within a week, Martha noticed her morning stiffness had decreased significantly. By the end of the month, she was waking up with greater mobility and sustained energy throughout the morning. Now, let's talk about the 3 powerful foods you should consider adding to your diet for better joint health and increased energy after 70. The first is fatty fish: salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout. These fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which have potent anti-inflammatory properties. Unlike the pro-inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids we discussed earlier, omega-3s help resolve inflammation in the body, particularly in the joints. Arthur, an active 84-year-old I worked with, incorporated salmon into his diet twice weekly. Within 2 months, he reported that the nagging pain in his knees that had limited his beloved nature walks had diminished significantly. "I'm back to walking 3 miles in the state park," he told me with pride, something I thought was behind me forever. The research on omega-3s for joint health is compelling. These fatty acids help reduce the production of molecules and substances linked to inflammation, including inflammatory eicosanoids and cytokines. For your joints, this means less pain, less stiffness, and improved mobility. If you're not a fish lover or have dietary restrictions, consider a high-quality fish oil supplement. Look for one that specifies the amounts of EPA and DHA, the 2 most beneficial omega-3s, and has been tested for purity. The second powerful food category to embrace is berries: blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, and raspberries. These colorful fruits are packed with antioxidants called anthocyanins that fight inflammation and oxidative stress at the cellular level. Eleanor, a 79-year-old with persistent fatigue, began adding a half cup of mixed berries to her breakfast each morning. "It seemed too simple to make a difference," she told me after a month, "but I have energy again. Not just for an hour or 2. I feel more consistently energetic throughout the day." Berries work their magic through multiple pathways. Their antioxidants neutralize free radicals that can damage cells and accelerate aging. They support healthy blood sugar levels, preventing the energy crashes that many seniors experience. And perhaps most importantly for joint health, they reduce inflammatory markers throughout the body. Fresh berries are ideal, but frozen berries are a perfect alternative. They're frozen at peak ripeness and often have higher antioxidant levels than fresh berries that have been shipped long distances. Keep a bag in your freezer to add to yogurt, oatmeal, or simply enjoy as a snack. The third powerful addition to your diet should be anti-inflammatory spices, particularly turmeric and ginger. These kitchen staples have been used medicinally for thousands of years, and modern research is validating their remarkable effects on inflammation and joint health. Turmeric contains curcumin, a compound with powerful anti-inflammatory properties comparable to some anti-inflammatory drugs, but without the side effects. Ginger contains gingerols, which have been shown to inhibit inflammation pathways in the body. Grace, a 72-year-old with osteoarthritis in her hands, began incorporating these spices into her daily routine after finding that conventional treatments weren't providing adequate relief. She created what she called her golden milk, warm almond milk with turmeric, a pinch of black pepper, which enhances curcumin absorption, ginger, and a touch of honey. "I drink it every evening before bed," she told me. "After about 3 weeks I noticed I could knit again without my fingers aching. It felt like a small miracle." To incorporate these spices, try adding fresh grated ginger to stir-fries or smoothies. Sprinkle turmeric into soups, egg dishes or rice. Or follow Grace's example and create a warming golden milk as an evening ritual. Just remember that turmeric is better absorbed when consumed with a bit of black pepper and some healthy fat. As we wrap up our journey through these dietary changes, I want you to remember that what we eat is not just about sustenance, it's information for our bodies. Every bite is sending signals that either promote inflammation or fight against it. Every meal is an opportunity to support your joints, boost your energy, and enhance your overall vitality. The beauty of the changes we've discussed is that they don't require a complete lifestyle overhaul. Start by removing just one of the 5 problematic foods we've covered. Perhaps begin with the one that resonated most with your personal situation. Once that change feels comfortable, move on to the next. Similarly, introduce one beneficial food at a time. Add salmon to your menu this week. Perhaps try berries next week. Small, sustainable changes are the ones that last and make the real difference in how you feel day to day. Remember Martha, who transformed her mornings by changing her breakfast? 6 months later, she shared something remarkable with me. "It's not just that my joints feel better," she said. "It's that I've reclaimed parts of my life I thought were gone forever. I can get down on the floor to play with my great-grandchildren now. I can tend to my garden. Food gave me my life back." Your body has an extraordinary capacity to heal and regenerate, even after 70, 80, or beyond. By removing the foods that promote inflammation and embracing those that fight it, you're giving your body the tools it needs to thrive. I'd love to hear about your experiences. Have you noticed connections between certain foods and how your joints feel? Have you discovered food combinations that boost your energy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more practical, science-backed advice on thriving in your golden years. Remember, aging isn't about decline. It's about making informed choices that support the vibrant, active life you deserve. Until next time, here's to your health, your vitality, and the wisdom that comes with the passing years.